So the Stanley Cup Playoffs are in full swing, and relatively fun first few nights. Just a quick one off the top here. I'm going to be on Game Over tonight. Game Over Edmonton, breaking down the Kings and Oilers, and knowing my luck, that's going to be a 4 overtime game because we haven't had one of those yet. But what am I buying? What am I selling from the start of the Stanley Cup Playoffs? Let's start with the buys. There's a few more of those. The Rangers are just better than the Washington Capitals. The Rangers, a lot of talk coming in the New York market about how the Rangers haven't really had like an easy first round series. They've always kind of had to grind their way through. This is an opportunity, I think, for the Rangers to not have to do that. I think we see a Rangers team come out here and really put a stamp on things. They do struggle 5-on-5 a little bit during the regular season anyway, but I thought that this was a nice showing from a Rangers team, just reminding everyone, like, look, we're better than Washington, and we should be treated as such, and we are going to treat them as such. And so I think that this game one is a sign of things to come, and I do think that the Rangers move on from this one relatively efficiently. The other, another buy that I have is in a fairly similar vein. The Carolina Hurricanes are just better than the New York Islanders. And look, the Hurricanes did not have their best game in game one. You still won. And from an Islanders standpoint, it's almost like you have to beat them 5 times now. Carolina just has too much firepower. The team is too deep. I just don't think the Islanders match up against this Carolina Hurricanes team. And quite frankly, against many playoff teams. I think of all the playoff teams in the NHL, the Islanders are probably 15th or 16th. So I don't think that there is a lot there from an Islanders standpoint to really grasp onto, like, hey, look at this. We played our best game of the series and we lost. So we'll see. I guess the one thing you can hang your hat on is that Carolina traditionally has slipped on a banana peel at times in the postseason, and you're just kind of hoping you can be that banana peel. The next one, and this is going to hurt a segment of the country, the Leafs just ain't it. And quite frankly, Boston has their number. Like, Toronto, that game was really, really difficult. They never really felt into it. And anytime there was a chance for them to get into it, Boston was like, oh, that's cute. Goal. Jake DeBrusk scores. Samsonov was not it. That was a relatively putrid performance between the pipes from the Leafs goaltender in game one. It was sloppy with the puck for Toronto. It was a team that looked like, and teams get like this in the playoffs. We've seen it before. I'm based here in Calgary. We've seen it with the Flames a number of times where it's okay. Playoffs are here. We need to be more physical. All right, I'm gonna hit a motherfucker then. And you just get geared up on, I'm going to hit this person. And then you get Ryan Reeves going over, making a hit while there's a defenseman pitching. All of a sudden it's out of position. It's a 2-on-1 and they score. And the game kind of felt over from there. Also for Toronto, captain feel like making an appearance at any point this series. Austin Matthews was great in this game, but with no William Nylander, they needed, the other $11 million guy to step up, and Tavares was nowhere to be found when this game was still in the balance. So I guess from a Toronto standpoint, you can take solace in the fact that, like, you got a literal 0 from Nylander because he didn't play. You got basically a 0 from Tavares. You got, like, out of 10, 4 from Marner. Matthews was awesome. He just couldn't finish, but you had all of these opportunities, or you have all of your star players do nothing in this first game. So maybe in the second one you'll come out of it. But this feels like what the series is going to be like. Like, Boston, I don't think did anything special in this game. Swayman was fine, but they just went out, they played hard, they won battles, they took advantage of their opportunities, and they kind of dragged Toronto into the exact game that they want to play in. For a Leafs team that has been to the playoffs now, 8 years in a row? They seemed overwhelmed by this moment, and that can't keep happening with this group. And now I'm going to say, if this continues, this is the last time it's going to be able to happen with this group, but still, it can't keep happening. Simply can't keep happening this way for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And lastly, the Winnipeg Jets are for real. We've been telling you this for a bit. I had them in the playoffs when I don't think a lot of people did at the beginning of the year. Throughout the season was saying, like, hey, we need to be taking this team seriously. And then they drop a touchdown on the Colorado Avalanche in Game 1. And everyone was reminded of how crazy that fan base was. And if there was anyone who was talking about relocation with the Jets when they were having some ticket sales struggles in the regular season, you need to slap yourself in the face at least 3 times and realize how great of a market that is for Winnipeg. And it would be nice if eventually they could get maybe a bigger building, but that it just felt like they were on top of the Avalanche the whole time with that crowd there. And it was so much fun to watch that and experience that, to see the Jets really have that sort of a wild game against Colorado. But this team is for real. They have 4 lines that make sense. They have 4 lines that can put the puck in the net. They have one of the better defensemen in the league in Josh Morrissey. I would have liked maybe another defenseman there, but I still overall like this defensive group. And Connor Hellebuck, when he's at his best, can be the best goalie in the NHL. I've said before, when you stack everyone up, if everyone, it's like NHL 24, if everyone is playing at their absolute peak, Hellebuck's the best. And I think we'll see that as this series goes along. Moving into the sell category, it's kind of a counter off of the Jets one. Yes, we are believing that the Jets are for real, but no, we are not believing that the Avalanche are cooked. You want to limit the giving up of 7. And for everyone who was doubting the goaltending situation for the Avalanche, this didn't quiet that. Obviously, this didn't quiet that. Like they got overwhelmed in this game by the Jets. But there is too much talent on this team for them to go quietly into that dark night. So, or into that white night, I suppose. I still think that this Colorado Avalanche team can make a real run. Now, like, I think the winner of this series can make a real run. Both of these teams are great. And I've said before, one of these teams being out in the first round is going to make that team have to take a good long look at some things. Not that the Avalanche need to blow it up or anything like that, but I do think they're going to take a look at how things have been constructed here over the last little bit. The other one that I want to sell is that the Preds are close to the Canucks, because I just simply don't think that's the case. And look, Nashville controlled a lot of this game, but you saw the talent edge for Vancouver. When they needed it, 2 goals in 11 seconds, bang, and it's over. And you see it, like, Pettersson didn't have a bad game, but he wasn't dynamite by any stretch of the imagination. JT Miller wasn't unbelievable by any stretch. It was Joshua, it was Lindholm, and it was Garland, that line that has been so key for them to be able to stretch out some of the other depth that they have on this team. That was the line that was getting the job done. And then when needed, Thatcher Demko came up with big saves. Like, I get that the Preds kept it close, and honestly, like, the scores might be close given Nashville Predator hockey and all of that. But I think that this ends up being it's going to be a hard fought series, but it might only be a 5-game series. And you can't have. You can have both that. So those are just a couple of my thoughts. What I'm buying and what I'm selling in the NHL. We're going to have NBA buy and sell coming up in a little bit, but a couple other news and notes things from around the NHL. First, the Vegas Golden Knights are bringing Michael Stone in for Game 1. And I know that there is a lot of, oh my goodness, he recovered just in time for the playoffs, and he probably was ready a couple of weeks ago. But the official stance of this podcast and Peter Klein's official stance on this particular situation is I simply don't care. If your team is good enough that you can make the playoffs without your captain, without one of the better all-around hockey players in the league, do it. If you want to have a taxi squad that is basically an all-star team that just sits the year out and you think you can make the playoffs without those players, do it. It's in the rules. It's fun. Cap circumvention. No, it's not. You're allowed to do it. Every single team in the league could do this exact thing tomorrow. Right? Like, you're just, okay, well, we don't really think, we think we're probably okay, so I'm just going to go put Brad Marchand in an ankle lock, and now he's going to sit for a little bit. All these players are banged up. You want to do the same thing? Fucking do it, man. Vegas is incredibly talented. Vegas is a very good hockey team. Also, Stone was legitimately hurt. Let's not say that he wasn't. Stone was legitimately hurt. They put him on LTIR. That freed up some money, and they were able to do this. Toronto had players on LTIR, and they were able to go out and acquire Lyubushkin. So let's not say that Vegas is doing anything different. It's just they're doing it better than everyone else, and that's why everyone is, to quote someone in Edmonton, a little pissy. But no, I don't have one moment of problem with this. I have not spent 1 second of my life having an issue with how Vegas has handled this situation. You can do it too. Everyone out there can do it. Also, congratulations. Vegas has circumvented the cap. Your reward is playing the Dallas Stars in the first round. So, bravo to you. And lastly, Lindy Ruff has been hired as the new head coach for the Buffalo Sabres. This is bad. It's not a great decision. Lindy Ruff, I don't think he was the reason that things haven't worked out in his last couple of spots, but he didn't help. And this is not the coach that I think you need to have to bring a team out of a rebuild or anything like that. But, and I saw some people today saying like, okay, well, this is like a lot of people mentioning Buffalo when you're talking about how hard it is to come out of a rebuild. And the one thing that we don't factor is that Buffalo is stupid. And A, correct. B, this is one of the things that happens though. When you have been in a rebuild for a little bit and you then can't get out of a rebuild, you panic. You make big moves when you're not ready to make big moves. From a Flame standpoint, you sign Troy Brouwer and Dennis Weidman and think that you can come out of it. From a Buffalo standpoint, you're panicking. You need to bring in someone else to make it work. And so you go back to 1999 and you go back to the glory days, right? The Blue Jays did the same thing. All right, we can't get this team to... We can't get this thing figured out. Who do we bring in? Cito Gaston. Okay, cool. All right, now we've made this big trade with the Marlins. Who do we bring in? John Gibbons. You know, you get a little bit panicky because okay, it is time for us to win. Why aren't we winning? And then you start making panic decisions. Those are the types of things that happen when rebuilds go wrong.